Hey, if you grew up with trauma, you will know of the struggle to maintain healthy relationships. Maybe you didn't know that your behaviours can push people away. Now, understanding what our triggers are is essential, but recognising our actions when triggered is also just as important. And the more we go living on with our trauma actions, the more we push people away, the lonelier we become, the more triggered, there's a vicious cycle going on. So let's talk about these actions that are pushing people away so that we can get ahead in life. Stay tuned. Hey, what's up? My name is Danny De Silves, and it is my job on the internet to help you to reparent yourself. Now, most importantly, please remember that your pain is not your fault. Your actions and, let's say, bad choices in life are a result of the knowledge that you had at that time. And I'm a firm believer that we do the very best in any given moment. Number 1, fawning. Yeah, what is fawning? I'm hearing you ask your screen. Well, in the words of the amazing Pete Walker, he is the author of the Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving book. It's an amazing read and I would recommend everyone to get it. It's down in the comment bar below or the link bar, wherever it is. Basically, fawning is a response to a threat by becoming more appealing to the actual threat. So instead of being our amazing, unique self, we are what we think another person wants us to be. You could be doing all the things someone else likes, regardless if you actually like that thing or not. Finding yourself a new personality that only exists when you are around this person. Now, I get it, you're trying to be liked. You want this other person to see you as kind of like an extension of yourself so that they don't leave you or hurt you. Now, you will find yourself trying to get into the head of the other person, trying to read them, checking in on their emotions, making sure they're okay. Now, if this has ever happened to you on the receiving end, it's actually a really strange feeling. Makes you want to run away, it's pretty icky. You can sense the other person has no substance to the connection and is just helplessly desperate to please you. Now, they will notice that you rarely share your own opinions and passions. Now, why does this happen? Well, let's take the example of abuse. Let's say you were abused or someone close to you was. Instead of the abuser being able to regulate their own emotions in a healthy way, you stood up and activated people-pleasing mode, almost like a jester, performing to keep that person happy so that they don't lash out and are no longer creating danger. So yeah, we fawn when we are scared to let someone know they have hurt us. It's okay for people to hurt us when we are adults. It happens, it's not the end of the world. What is important is putting down boundaries to let people know how to treat us, instead of actually masking it to make sure they aren't hurting at all. Now, real relationships allow the whole emotional spectrum to take place, and they allow space for people to just go on with life, recharge, and come back when needed. Being present in the moment with someone instead of being 10 steps ahead of their next physical or emotional move creates genuine connection. Unable to see faults. Now, faults are not bad things. They are merely like little speed bumps that make us go, oh, damn, I should drive a little bit slower here. I got a little bit caught up in my own head there, wasn't really paying attention to the road. Now, this happens in 2 ways. Number 1, we think everything is our fault, or 2, we don't see when we did something wrong. Both of which makes people get the ick and their gut feeling goes off and they're like, this person's a little bit strange. I don't want to be spending as much time with them. So let's take the option 1, everything is my fault. If you take ownership for a situation that was not your fault, you are creating more unnecessary emotional work for yourself. For example, if you think you said or did something that offended someone, you may profusely apologize for it. So much so that the other person's like, dude, it's okay, calm down, you don't need to apologize, it's fine. Then you end up overthinking. Now, here's a personal example of mine. I had a client from hell. They would always pay me late and we were just about to work on a bigger project together. So I asked to draw up a contract. One of the key points stated the date of regular payments, and after 2 late payments, the work would stop, be taken down offline, and then it would go back up online when the payment was received. And then after 3 late payments, the contract expired. So the client was happy, reminded when they need to have this contract signed several times, and on the date the campaign was supposed to begin, they messaged me and said, where's the work? And I said, hey dude, look, if you sign the contract, I would deliver the materials. And the client lost their swearing at me in the emails, telling me how terrible I was, but instead of little old me thinking, ooh, what a strange experience. Thankfully, this issue is about them, not me, and I had a lucky escape to find a better client, I internalized it. I entered a big shame quest of maybe I shouldn't have sent that email, maybe if I just got on with the work it would have been fine, and I probably annoyed all of my friends because I could not stop talking to them about that situation. They were talking sense to me about it, but I was so triggered that I couldn't see that I was not at fault. And on the other hand, sometimes we don't see when we're at fault. It feels uncomfortable if someone told us that we hurt them with our actions or our words. The hurt is unbearable, so we ignore them. We unleash our defensiveness story and tell them that they were at fault, all because it's uncomfortable to say, I'm so sorry, I didn't intend for my words or my actions to hurt you, and I understand what you are saying. Let me take this time away to think about it, and then I will try harder. Instead, we should respond kindly instead of reacting, and this deepens connections. The Vanishing Act, aka ghosting, could be a temporary disappearance or long-term. Something happened that made us feel disappointed or forgotten about, sad, unappreciated, and maybe you feel your friend should have thought about you, but instead of speaking up for whatever happened, saying, hey, why didn't you invite me to that party? Instead, you can't find those words to emotionally explain how you feel through the fear of upsetting your friend and then the fear that they will abandon you. So we hold it in and we emotionally withdraw. Slowly but surely you fade away, ignoring their calls, avoiding text messages. Now you may come back eventually when you don't feel so hurt, but the other person will be protecting themselves. They feel hurt and they will pull away from you. Sometimes people do things without considering us. They may have in fact forgotten that you guys had a plan. Maybe life got in the way. Now that's not to say you're not important. It's just life is life sometimes. It's important you speak up and say, hey, think of me, maybe we should go and get coffee together sometime. We bond through loneliness. Let's talk about loneliness. It sucks. When you have trauma, you know the pain of loneliness. And then when we meet someone, literally anyone that seems trusting and nice, we vomit our conversations all over them. Yeah, gross, I know. We end up blurting out tons of our trauma because one, this is us. This is how we define ourselves. Before we heal a little bit more, we're just trauma children. I am nothing more than my trauma. And two, we are emotionally offloading because we want to get it out of us. Forgetting about bad memories doesn't make them go away, they just come back eventually. So we offload. We end up taking control of the conversations, not really interacting with the other person, just talking and talking and talking about ourselves. And we feel great, but there's no real connection for the other person. So the other person walks away. Now this happens on first dates a lot. If one person is extremely hurt from their past relationships, never really work through the grief of losing their past partner, as soon as another person comes along, they offload all the trauma onto them, and it makes the other person not want to have a second date. Overall, the relationship is not equal. There's no listening to the other person to understand them. It's more us listening to them so that we can add our own 2 cents into that conversation topic. It's not emotionally healthy to trauma dump on someone you've just met. After you've built up some trust, yeah, you can eventually tell them about your past. And plus, you never truly know someone until I would say about a year. So please be careful what you say to people that you don't know, just in case they may use your vulnerability against you in some way. This extends out to setting up dates or things to do with friends. You may be the person who just meets someone and then immediately sets up a coffee date for the next week. You get overly excited and invite them to do lots of things together. Now, I understand you're trying to keep this person around. You want them to see how fun and great you are, but it can come across as a little clingy. I once met a friend on a friend app, kind of like dating but for friends, and we met up for coffee. And all this person did was talk my ear off. It was overwhelming. And I couldn't really talk about myself as I felt as though she was just waiting for me to finish my sentence so that she could start talking again. And it made me feel very unappreciated. Now I could see she had a lot of trauma that she was hurting, but I could not wait to leave the coffee shop. And I've been there, okay? I've been that person that throws up my conversations of trauma, offloads, thinking that I'm actually bonding with someone, sets up lots of invitations to do stuff, buy extravagant gifts, you get the point. All in the hope that I wouldn't be rejected. But instead I killed what could have been a genuine connection. The aggression. Emotionally reacting instead of responding is a common trait of trauma. We get so emotionally overwhelmed, we revert to anger as a secondary emotion as we don't feel heard or validated, and we want maybe that other person to hurt as much as we do. So we keep rehashing the same point over and over again, unable to move past it. We bring up old traumas and hurts, and it feels like we're stuck in a loop. Your friend or partner may try to change the subject or steer the conversation in a different direction, but we keep circling back to the same painful topic, each time getting more aggressive. Now, this can be exhausting for both of you, and it can make your friend feel like you're not willing to let go of the past and move forwards. It's important to remember that friendships are built on mutual trust, respect, and understanding. While it's natural to have disagreements and misunderstandings, it's crucial to handle them in a way that strengthens rather than damages the relationship. Now, let's be real, we all have days where we are the worst versions of ourselves. That's normal. Now, a good friend or partner will see that this isn't really you and helps you through it. However, continuous rage tells this person you can't handle when things don't go your way. They may feel on eggshells around you and want to create distance, expecting others to soothe you. If you came from a background where your parents or your caregivers emotionally starved you, you will grow up with the same expectations that people need to meet your needs. You may end up testing people, emotionally manipulating them so that you can find faults in people to say, aha, I knew it, you would never be good enough for me. And of course, what does this do? Sets up an endless cycle of being let down. When you are a child, the love and the care that you receive from your parents or caregiver is unconditional. They are supposed to give you everything without expecting anything back in return. And then we grow up and we don't have the same type of unconditional love anymore. But if we didn't get it as a kid, we expect it when we are an adult. We are left trying to heal a wound that was left by our parents or caregivers. So, to soothe the pain, you expect unreasonable demands from your friends. You may be passive aggressive and expect them to feel guilty for not including you in things. Now remember, we never have control of someone else's thoughts, feelings, or their actions, and it is reasonable to be upset if a friend forgets that you wanted to come along to something they suggested you guys should do. Expecting for someone to care for you like a parent will make people want to distance themselves from you. They will feel like they can never do anything right, and they will pull away because it feels draining to be with you. It's a hard truth, but the wounds that you suffered in your childhood, they're not your fault. However, you have to spend the rest of your lifetime healing them. And let me tell you, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But by working on your own emotional regulation and communicating in a healthy way, you learn to express your needs without resorting to manipulation or control. And by building your strong sense of self-worth and self-validation, you start to fill in that neglected hole that was there. Therefore, you don't rely on others to validate your feelings or your existence. One of the biggest lessons in life I have learned from a result of trying to heal my own childhood trauma is to come from a place of responding with what is right instead of what you are feeling. Let's say you and a friend made plans to go to, an event together. It may have not been something that was solidified with an actual, purchase of a ticket. It was just a mere thought of, hey, let's do this cute thing together. And then eventually you may find out that this friend has gone to that event with someone else. Now, you're gonna feel hurt that you weren't included, and this is gonna trigger all of those negative emotions that you've been carrying with you from your childhood. But the right thing to do in that moment is to protect the friendship. You can respond by saying, oh wow, that sounds amazing. How was the event? Did you have a great time? You're letting your friends know that you are there for their happiness. And then you can, if you feel it's necessary, to say, I would love to go with you to that event. If it ever comes around again, let me know and let's book tickets. And of course, it goes without saying, if a friend seems to continuously forget about you and books things that you have suggested but with someone else, then this is when you sit down with them and you say, hey, I've noticed that I keep suggesting amazing things to do with you, but then you are doing them with someone else. And I've got to say, I feel a little bit hurt. And you may find that your friend turns around and tells you, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. I know you briefly mentioned it, but I didn't think you were that serious because we never really discussed the plans properly or bought tickets. Now, it may feel that the world is against you, especially when we have come from a place of having strong emotional reactions to life. But you will find that your friends are not trauma replications of your parents, past partners, or caregivers. And the reality is, Sometimes our perception of the world is just a little bit hazy as we see it through trauma-tinted glasses, but with a bit of work and a bit of self-love, we can get there. Good luck.